this is one of the reasons why I loved her most popular short story. It's not in the book, but you can go to katechopin.org and read it. And that story is The Story of an Hour. Kate wrote a multitude of short stories, but The Story of an Hour has become probably actually her most famous story, even possibly above her novel The Awakening. And I read it for the first time when I was in high school, and I never fully understood what the emotions were that Kate was writing about until after I'd been married a few years, and then I rediscovered the story, and then I appreciated the story a little bit more. And actually, as I reread a lot of her works as a woman in her 30s who's married with a child, I really appreciate her stories a lot more and the sentiments that she was writing about, and I fear not to give opinion to those things that lots of women don't want to admit to. My marriage, and one of the things that I'm talking about is, like Kate, my marriage, it is a happy one, and I love my husband dearly, but there's something that exists in the darkest part of my mind, and I'm gonna bet that it actually exists in the darkest part of any spouse's mind, and wives and husbands alike. And it's the idea of what we think about what it would mean to be free from the constraints of marriage. Even if it's only tickled once and very briefly, it's natural that this question should exist. We remember our lives before we were married. We may be so in love with our spouses we never want to be apart from them. However, there is that natural inclination to think about what would my life be like if I was free. And during this time that Kate wrote this story, it was still women were fighting for equal rights. It was shortly after the Civil War. Women relied upon their husbands to take care of them. Women were inferior subjects and inept at many things and were not equipped to take care of themselves. So it was unnatural for Kate to write about this thing, because on the one hand, women should seem very grateful for their husbands and worry about what they would do if not. I highly recommend you reading it if you never read any more of her work. Just that. Sadly, on August 20th, 1904, Kate attended the World's Fair in St. Louis, and upon arriving home, she didn't feel very well. And later on that evening, she called her son and was complaining of a headache. And then, unfortunately, the next day she fell unconscious, and then on the 22nd she passed away. And doctors believe she died of a cerebral hemorrhage. After her death, Kate grew to become first one of America's most influential female writers. A lot of it was, like Emily Dickinson, not afraid to explore certain ideas or thoughts that women had. But eventually, and I attribute this to the Irish stubbornness of her, she has managed to elbow her way into the status of being a critical author of American literature or literature throughout the world, and she has joined the ranks alongside many of those that she so adored. It's easy for her to get lost in a lot of literature classes, especially dealing with American. As you can see, our textbook is extraordinarily thick and there's a lot of material to cover, but I do highly recommend, if you can only have spare 5 minutes, to go to her website, or you can Google The Story of an Hour and definitely experience her story and read it, and you guys will understand more about where she was coming from. and especially if you think about the material that she writes about and the time period. And thank you for listening to my little voice lecture, and I hope, yay, we make it through this week and have a fun rest of the class. Thank you.